How the data pros? Let's try during a very short course of 15 minutes to introduce you to the main fundamentals of the market research. So the skills that you will be introduced to during this crash course will be the following. So the main goal is to provide you with the main fundamentals about lead market research, fundamentals from end to end for conducting a full lead market research. And this can be highly valuable for online and offline freelancers, creators of market analysis agencies, and the decision and the as well as the decision makers like entrepreneurs, strategists, executives, product managers, marketers, and so on and so forth. So in order to do that, the main agenda of this course would be to introduce to you the main key concepts around lead market research, then outline the main differentiators of lead market research with respect to market research or classic market research, then emphasizing from now on lead market research and focusing on it by first going through its main process, taking a look at the current industry numbers around lead market research, introducing you to the main toolbox of lead market research, and then taking a look at what a typical market research deliverable or report can have as a global structure and components. Once we do that, we will have a look at business analysis models like the SWOT analysis and so on and so forth. We will be taking a look at it. And then the different formats that a researcher can deliver when conducting a typical lead market research. Then we will take a look at a case study, because this short course, even if it's a very short 15 minutes introduction, we want it also to be practical and not just stopping at the theory and fundamentals part. So we will be going through a concrete case study that leverages all these skills in a concrete way. Then once we introduce everything, here you are at the level you are ready to take a look at the different strategies for monetizing the skills around lead market research. So let's dive into it. First, key notions. So the first key notion when we speak about lead market research is naturally market research in its own. So market research stands for gathering intelligence and information by businesses aiming at surviving and growing in the market. And this kind of information or intelligence can be, for instance, focusing on the customer, on the product, on the competition, and they can have different sorts of objectives. So then what is a primary research? So a primary research is a kind of research among the lead market research and market research in general, and it stands for new data produced during the research by the researcher and not by using pre-existing data in the literature and examples of primary research that the researcher is producing during his own research. So data that it's really belonging to him and that he's creating from scratch. He can use, for instance, for creating such new data, surveys, interviews, focus groups, and so on and so forth. So after primary research, naturally, we can take a look at secondary research or desk research. That stands for data gathered from the literature, hence already exists before conducting the research. So examples of secondary research can be quantitative statistics published by organizations, journals, magazines, blog articles, etc. Now, when we talk about market intelligence or market research, inevitably we have to talk about qualitative data. So qualitative data is one type of data that is often unstructured and cannot be treated by formulas and statistics. Examples of this data can be texts, dialogues, images, and videos, etc. It can be whether primary or secondary. So qualitative data can be of both these types that were introduced in the former slides. Then after qualitative data naturally comes quantitative data, and as its name is suggesting, it's data that is structured and can be used for conducting statistics and quantitative assessments of facts. So it's also like qualitative data. Quantitative data can also be whether primary or secondary data. Now, here we are aiming at introducing the fundamentals about lead market research, but the main question that can be raised here naturally is what are the main differentiators of lead market research with respect to classic market research? So first we can call classic market research here as market research 1.0 because it's the old way of doing it, and lead market research as lead market research 2.0 and above because it's the new way of conducting market research leveraging the new technologies that are existing nowadays in the market. So the definition is the same, as you can see, or very similar. So both are tools and methodologies that aim at gathering intelligence and information by businesses aiming at surviving and growing in the market. Gathered information can be of the same type or very similar. The objectives also based on the definition can be the same or very similar. And the tools are a first big differentiator between these two methodologies. So, for instance, the classic market research or market research 1.0 is based heavily on physical and face-to-face search, whereas the lead market research is exclusively based on digital tools. So even if we conduct a survey with lead market research, we use purely the digital online tools for doing so. Same thing when we make expert interviews, we have online platforms that we use and we leverage in order to make it in a much more efficient way than classic market research. So regarding the cost, when conducting a classic market research, it costs from a timing point of view up to 10 weeks, and it costs to the customer from a monetary point of view up to $50K, by opposition to lead market research that costs from a timing point of view roughly 20 hours. It can be more than that or less depending on the objectives of the conducted study, but roughly to have an order of magnitude. And from a monetary point of view, it can cost up to $3,000 to the customer. So here we can see that the lead market research is reducing by an order of magnitude at least the costs from a timing point of view and monetary point of view with respect to the classic market research. Now, regarding the advantages of classic market research, it's the fact that it's highly credible. So the market is highly used to it. It's well known. Businesses are using the classic market research since decades, if not centuries or thousands of years. Whereas lead market research is heavily based on digital tools, highly modern and cutting-edge tools, hence very recent. So it's highly efficient, it's standalone, it's cheap. But on the other hand, it needs and it's cheap. Regarding the limitations of each of these, so first, classic market research, I think that you got it. It's cumbersome, it's costly, it's outdated. It needs a lot of time. It needs big teams to be conducted. On the other hand, regarding the limitations of lead market research, it's the fact that it needs versatile skills, and it can be really intimidating if it's not well mastered from the start. That's why before conducting or going pro as lead market research, it's really vital to have the good training for it and to be well surrounded and very well guided to do so. So let's now, from now on, emphasize and focus on lead market research. And first, let's take a look at a typical lead market research process. So a lead market research process can be summarized into the 5Ds methodology. 5Ds stands for 5 main steps. Each of these starts with D, so as simple as that. The step 1 starts by defining the scope and goals of the conducted research. Step 2 is to direct, stands for performing a first desk research in order to gain a first intuition and build and validate these first intuitions. Then third step is to deepen that knowledge and these outcomes and this research by performing quantitative, qualitative, and primary research for deepening and fine-tuning the outcomes and recommendations of the research. Step 4 is to deduce, where the researcher makes the final analysis and reporting of the results and takeaways of the study. Then finally, once everything is ready, then the researcher is ready to delivering the final research as report, presentation, service, etc. So is it really worth it? Let's take a look at the numbers of lean market research. Simply, this is a lean market research market size study that assesses the global lean market research or online market research in general to $8.9 billion in 2021. And more importantly, the high growth that is expected to be exhibited by this market between 2021 and 2026 of up to 15% of annual growth, which is pretty promising. So the two main components of lean market research can be considered as lean market research as a service and lean market research as a software. And we can see that both of these two components are progressing pretty well. So after taking a look at the main fundamentals, now it's time to go into the practical aspects of lean market research by starting with the main toolbox and typical research tools that a typical lean market researcher can use. So as you can see, it's pretty versatile. We do not have the time in 15 minutes to take examples of each of these because each of these categories can in itself embed different resources, up to tens of the resources that can be embedded in each of these categories. So just naming them, this can be generic resources like Google, etc. These can be also mobile marketplaces where the researcher can have a feeling about what is really working well, what is not. The open data sources, now there are a lot coming from governments, industries, etc. Paid data, trends and volumes like Google Keywords, Google Trends, and so on and so forth. Affiliate marketplaces where there are digital products to be sold. There is a lot of comments of quantitative data provided by the affiliate marketplaces that can provide a lot of insights regarding a given trend on the online market. Companies data, livery data, customer reviews. This is a gold mine of quantitative and qualitative data resources that we can find everywhere, like on Amazon, on eBay. So customer reviews are pretty everywhere today. Financial data, talking to experts, online survey panels, classic media like journals, blog posts, magazines, and so on and so forth. So once the researcher has a research objective and has roughly an idea about the resources that he wants to use, whether primary, secondary, quantitative, and qualitative, he needs a report to structure the different ideas and outcomes. And a typical report of lean market research is composed by these different parts, starting with the introduction, then taking a look or introducing the research methodology and how the research was conducted, then presenting, optionally depending on the research objectives, the global market structure, the main focus of the research, then business analysis models in order to summarize in a really user-friendly way for the reader, in a graphical way, generally the main outcomes and ideas that the researcher wants to convey in his deliverables. Then the desk research, the primary research, the summary, and the main outcomes once everything is ready to do so, which is one of the most important parts, if not the most important part that the reader is expecting, are at the end of the day what this report and what this research is bringing new to me and what is the value behind it. So this is generally outlined in the summary and main outcomes of the final research. Then the conclusions and open questions, because this is the funny part when conducting a research. When we answer to questions regarding a conducted research, generally this new research raises new questions. And this is the part where the researcher can embed these new questions in there. And then last but not least, the references. These are key because the references quality and credibility have a direct impact on the quality and the credibility of the conducted research. So business analysis models. Business analysis models are a graphical way that the researcher can embed in here and there and the report and the different deliverables that can summarize in a generally graphical way the main ideas that he wants to convey in the report. So the business analysis models can be of different types, like for example, analyzing the organizational strengths and weaknesses of a given business by using the PESTLE analysis, the SWOT analysis, or strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, the Porter's 5 forces, and so on and so forth. Second type of business analysis models are the models for analyzing the systems and processes, like activity diagrams, use case diagrams, user interface wireframes, etc. One can find also business analysis models for analyzing stakeholders and their interests, like stakeholder map, threats and opportunities, matrix for stakeholders, the Moscow method, and etc. So the classic way of delivering a typical market research is through reporting. So a text report, but with the new technologies, there are versatile ways of delivering a typical conducted research. So the written and text report, of course, it remains because it's key and very important deliverable among the research if it's requested by the customer. But today, more and more customers only request these slides and the presentations as deliverable. And these slides and presentation take the role of the final report and should embed the main outcomes, the typical methodology, and the typical structure of a classical report, the data that was used, the outcomes, the conclusions, etc. And for an even higher user experience to the reader and to the customer, the researcher can provide also video content, audiobook, and dashboards that are related to that conducted research. So as a case study, let's take a look at a report that was produced by datapros.ai. The main aim of that report was to assess simply the online market research market, and the section where we presented the main numbers around that market was extracted directly from this report. So the first step was to plan the 5 Ds of the study. So the main goal is to focus on the main structure of the market, so the market size, the main players, the main trends of the market, etc. Conducting the research and building the final deliverables like the video, the audiobook, the slides, the report, and the data that was used for conducting that research. So at this level, you have a global idea about what lead market research stands for. So once one has the needed skills to go pro as lead market researcher, then there are different strategies for monetizing that knowledge. So for instance, you can leverage it as online freelancer. So using the different online platforms like Upwork, Freelancer, Fever, etc. There is a lot of request for market intelligence there, and you can leverage this knowledge in order to, and you can provide your services in there. You can also build your own online agency, provide your knowledge as e-learning and coaching services, write content for blogs that are requesting market analysis and business analysis in general. As content writer, report trading. So you build or you buy market intelligence reports, and then you can sell them to the customers that are needing that value. And affiliate marketing, like using the knowledge for lead market research in order to build content out of it, and then create the traffic with these and sell convenient affiliate products with the interested audience. And then last but not least, using lead market research knowledge in order to build software that are based on that knowledge. For instance, building new cutting edge tools, online tools for making efficient surveys, making post-processing or automated post-processing of typical survey results. The limit is really the creativity of the entrepreneur. So that was it, a brief introduction to lean market research in 15 minutes. So if you are interested in going even deeper into the details, I have a masterclass, a free one, so a completely free masterclass that goes a little bit in more details in each of these major components of lean market researcher. So don't hesitate and feel free. I would be glad to provide you with that free and highly valuable content. I hope that you found it valuable and interesting, and I thank you for your time. Keep safe and talk to you soon. Bye.